Good afternoon, YouTube. This is going to be a follow-up to my video on austerity policies, as VogterViking has made a second video, at which he doubles down on many of the mistakes that he made in his first video. I will admit I am absolutely flabbergasted that Vogter seems to think that cutting social welfare programs actually means that the money cut from these programs goes directly to the rich, which it appears, once again, that that is in fact his position, as he states that welfare programs have been cut by 30%, and now the rich have gotten 30% richer. That is not the case. Money cut from social welfare programs goes towards reducing deficits. It's government money that the government does not have to spend. Vogter also states that he claims that there are numerous studies that show that the more equal a society is, without defining that nebulous term, the better off it is. Which, if he's talking about income inequality, I would actually agree with him because, well, if he looked at the publication from the International Monetary Fund that I linked in the description box, he would know that there's a correlation between income inequality and economic growth. By the way, while correlation is not causation, the publication actually goes into how income inequality causes many problems that will impede growth. Vogter also claims that the main point, or the main cause, well, he basically says it's the main point of austerity policies is to make rich people richer and poor people poorer. This is not true. It's designed to reduce deficits and debt to GDP ratios. Vogter also claims that there is an economics student. That's all he provides as a source, is just that very descriptive and source right there, that says that debt is not a problem, whereas actually it is. If you bother to read the source from the German Central Bank that I posted in my description box, you would know that debt can cause investors, or people who are buying government bonds, to want higher interest rates, and if people believe that the government's not going to pay off this debt, they'll demand a higher interest rate, which means the government has to borrow more money to pay said interest rates. And if they happen to have control of their monetary policy, they can have their central bank try and keep interest rates as low as possible, which will cause rapid inflation. Vogter doesn't really provide a source for that claim, the claim that debt is not a problem. He also claims that the 2008 financial crisis is all made up. It's artificial, which I would like him to explain that to someone who lost their job or their home because of that financial crisis. Moreover, he seems to believe that austerity policies are why we had the crisis in the first place. The crisis mainly took place because banks were selling mortgages to people who were not qualified, and the only reason the banks were allowed to make those mortgages was because of a lack of regulation. But mainly it was because banks did not fully understand the risks involved in selling those mortgages. They just saw profit. Now, Vogter then goes on to talk about how the protests in Egypt are because of austerity policies. That is incorrect. The main thing that kicked off the protests in Egypt was the fact that Mohamed Morsi, then president of Egypt, basically tried to assert total control over the government, claiming he was the protector of Egypt. And this angered a lot of people, and thus protests took out, and there you go. He then talks about Brazil, which there's many factors when it comes to Brazil, one of the most main ones being a rise in the cost of bus fares. There's actually a lot of problems in Brazil that I could speak to, but I don't believe austerity is one of them, or one of the main ones at least, if it's a factor at all. The same goes with Turkey, because by Vogter's own admission, the protests in Turkey are because they want to demolish a park. Even though the protests in Turkey have actually been going on before, mainly because the ruling party is being seen as very Islamist. So basically those are the main criticisms I have of Vogter's video. It's that Vogter doesn't understand economics, as I've said before. Vogter doesn't understand the terminology because he then goes on to blame. He claims that the policy is neoconservatism mixed with libertarianism, but in the prior video he blamed it on technocrats. He really doesn't understand what cutting government spending actually does. All in all, Vogter is an idiot. Have a nice day.